Welcome. We're here to have our conversation about the film Gather that we watched during our Solidarity Summit for Humans United and Mutual Aid Networks. So we're just checking in to see who's with us, where you are, and a little bit of your local context, and anything you want to share about your impressions of the film. And if you want to ask a question to the group, please do. And the person I see next is Ian. Welcome.
Hello. Hey. I'm Ian. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you for organizing this, and really enjoyed the film. And I will pass it to Kurt. I use he and them pronouns. I'll pass it to Kurt.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I unfortunately missed most of the film. I had it up while I had other things to attend to, but I did catch, I think it was like the last 10 minutes of it. So between the visuals I saw when I was just more watching, I wasn't able to listen to a good share of it. I just kind of in the brief synopsis, I got a good impression of it. I like what you're saying, Stephanie and Ian. So I'll have to go back and actually watch it sometime soon. So thanks for the opportunity to share. And then is this the format where I should pick the next person?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Do you want to say a couple words about some of the mutual aid dreams that you have where you are?
Yeah, I'm in Waukesha County, Wisconsin, and the county here, I guess as far as I experience it being in the county, gives me the impression that they like to think around here that we might be like the top, if not close to the top in our, might say, status of all the counties of Wisconsin. So, can point to figuring it's based on affluence and effluence. And I know in terms of the government, loving the bond rating that they have and so forth. So I say that to compare against some of my observations is I am liking the mutual aid network as a solution for where I think 100,000 of our 400,000 residents of this county, that we might be able to build a better future here. And simple things like, people experiencing home insecurity, homelessness, houselessness, and people even in a county like ours, not getting all the basic needs yet of food, shelter, clothing, and such. And with nonprofit work, I think, there's a need to continue to evolve the organization of it and making it simpler for the citizens here to plug and play and shaping a stronger Waukesha County future. So that's my interest here. I love the particulars of the mutual aid network, and I think it's looking to be very useful here. And that's what I'm hoping, that the mutual aid network will help me grow a better future of Waukesha County, Wisconsin. And so, in terms of if I'm picking the next person, then Rita, would you like to go next?
All right, I'm going now. Hi, all. I'm Rita Cantu, and I'm in Arizona, actually kind of in north central Arizona, where I have a farm, but I'm actually representing the Border Community Alliance, which is in southern Arizona, and is a tremendous organization, a nonprofit that focuses on sharing the good news between both sides of the border. The video was incredible, and one of the things I loved about it was the just the visceral feeling you got between the elders and the youngers, and the sharing that they did, and the each stood on their own in such a variety of places and peoples. I just came away really inspired, which is not so easy to do necessarily, seeing films of this nature. My hope and a question I have is that we might be able to have people. We have a book, film, and literature group. That reminds me, and each month we also have a speaker one of my friends is Gary Paul Nabhan Jr. Jr. Dr. Nabhan, who's written over 30 books on food sustainability. Are you familiar with him? One of you are. Stephanie, you are. This book, Food from the Radical Center, Healing Our Land and Communities, is something I think you'd be really, really interested in. It is so powerful around how exactly what the film is talking about, with a partial indigenous focus, but throughout a lot of different cultures. He is a Lebanese immigrant, but spends all of his time on the border. So my question is, in this next month, we're going to be working a little bit, hearing from the Aho Center for Sustainable Agriculture, and they do the same thing for the Tohono O'odham people, that some of the things that you're describing. But I want our members, before they come to this meeting where we discuss the various things, a woman from Santa Clara Pueblo who has a permaculture center, Roxanne Hensel, amazing. I'll find her last name. How can we access the movie, each individual, in order to look at it on demand by themselves, so that by a certain date in mid-October we can meet and discuss it? And would there be anybody that might be able to speak to us from the, sorry, I forgot the name of the group that you're with.
So I will share with you the email. So we had nothing to do with the film. We just set it up through the organization, and they were really gracious. We were going to do this a couple months ago on short notice. And so we reached out to them and they wrote right back and gave us the way to organize this screening. So what I'll do is I'll just forward you some of I'll send you the same thing that they sent to us, and then you'll have their contact information. And after the change, after the next hour, or in the next hour, we'll talk more also about how we build on next steps locally. And I think it'd be really good to explore how we can help foster more outcomes from our viewings and more community building via our viewings. So thanks for asking for that. And if you can give me your email by typing it in the chat, that would be great. And I'll go ahead and pass that on to you. That would be. And I'll pick the next person I'm seeing.
Oh, I was just picking
Rita,
Ellen.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. I apologize. I was picking Ellen Black.
You're muted,
You're
Alan.
muted, Ellen.
Yeah, Alan, you're muted. If you can unmute for us, it'd be great. Thanks, Al.
I guess that would be beneficial, wouldn't it? Alan Black, outside Washington, D.C. in Damascus, Maryland. Got involved with local beginning farmers about 8 years ago. And I posted a little video in the chat that we did that would give you some background if you're interested.
Thanks. Do you want to give us like the super quick synopsis of your work? Or?
I if that's possible, everything's so connected, right? So I'm hosting gatherings once a month here. I figured people will behave because they want to, and it's fun. So I'm providing live music and potlucks on the second Saturday of every month, and I'm trying to get my neighbors to join in. I might need to sharpen a stick and poke a couple of them, but we're going to get them over here and get them in the tent, and then, start talking about all these things that are so important, and as far as the film, I mean, it just seems it's common sense, everything that everybody was talking about.
Lovely, thanks. You want to pass the mic to someone you see?
Oh, okay. Anybody want to raise a hand? Or I see Susan. Or Tim.
Hi, this is Tom. I'll go.
All right, go, Tom.
So I jumped on. I have not seen the film yet, but it's at an intersection of several different passions for me. Part of my family history is I'm understanding by marriage, I am related to Apache Nation. Last month, I drove south from Minnesota and Wyoming. We stopped at Little Bighorn, and I purchased a book about it, and it says the history come from the native people's perspective. I haven't finished that book yet either, but I mean, I'm also passionate about health and sustainability and food. So it seems like it's just a variety of intersections for things that I'm passionate about. I also give to charity and stuff like Lakota Sioux schools and stuff. So it's just a variety of different intersections for me personally, but I look forward to seeing it. I haven't seen it yet, but that's me. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. Where are you?
I should have said that. Sorry. I'm in the,
Oh, you went on mute.
sorry about that. I should have said that. I'm in the Dallas, Texas area.
All right. Thanks so much for joining. Tim, are you able to say hi? I muted you because I was echoing all over the place before.
Oh, yeah, right. Hi, Tim Jones. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. And yeah, so my interests and hopes, and I'm going to leap right into that, is to be able to help facilitate more and more of these occurrences where people from far and wide and also locally have an opportunity to see something that does inspire and does end up causing those intersections to be more discussed and more activated and engaged in. My connections with technology and soil ends up reaching every aspect of the good and the bad of what we just saw in that film. My ancestry goes back to the origins of the things which caused harm. And I picked up a profession, industrial engineering, which is probably responsible for the greatest speed of devastation that is all there for. So I feel very much obligated to find a way to give back. And so my connection to the mutual aid network that Stephanie and a number of others here continue to hold up towards an alternative possibility is something that I've committed myself to pretty fully. I look forward to continued progress, to continued connections, to continued opportunities to discuss. So on to others who are here. Corey.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Corey Kreidler, calling from San Francisco, California. I was invited by Kurt and Stephanie, and I'm glad I was able to receive that information and attend. I was listening. I was actually already on happiness call, so I wasn't aware of the movie, but I'm glad to be on the call today and hearing where things are at with solidarity. Yesterday I met a lot of really cool people at this event in San Francisco that I know that they're like really perfect to kind of introduce to everyone with Solidarity and Happy Neighborhood Project and everything. So yeah, just looking forward to being the liaison to kind of connecting everybody. So good to be on the call today. And I think Denise, have you gone yet?
Hi, thank you. Hi. Hold on, let me just turn off. I had a leg massager going on and I don't want to disrupt the conversation. So yes, thank you for having me. Kurt actually pinged me in. I didn't get to see the film. I hope I can find it and watch it. My company's name is Live Creatively, and I'm sorry I don't have the camera on. But it's a bit of a setup for me to get to that. Yeah, my company's name is Live Creatively, and I named it that because I have a disability, and even though I have that disability, and it is a progressive disability, I am able to do whatever it is that any able-bodied person can do. I just need to tweak it to work for me. And that is what I teach. I'm a lifestyle strategist coach, and I help people dream big. And when I say dream big, I mean like dream so big that even though other people are telling you, oh no, you can't do that. No, that's impossible, Denise. You have to be realistic, right? There's certain limitations that you have. Well, you know what? No, there are no limitations. Whatever it is that you want, let's figure out a way. Let's strategize and see how we can make that happen. Let's come together as a community and rely on others to help you achieve that goal, that dream. I get people from the mindset of I can't into how can I, and how can we collectively help each other? Because, we live in this world, this big, beautiful world, and we are a community. And oftentimes there's so much separation between us, and we need to come together and help our fellow human being. And, when Kurt introduced me to mutual aid, I am very intrigued by it. I love the barter system. I think that we need more of that in this world. Our financial means are so vastly different in the world that we live in. I often tell people we don't even have middle class anymore. We have poor or rich, right? It's very the scale is very unbalanced, and it's getting more and more difficult to find that balance. But what I do say to people is that it's never too late. So when you think that you're stuck in a life that you're not satisfied in, it's never too late. I was supposed to die when I was 10 years old. I heard the doctor tell my mom at 8 years old that she's not going to make it to 10. And here I am so many decades later. I'm 53 years old. That picture was only a couple of months ago. And I tell people all the time, hey, we all know our birth date, but we do not know our expiration date. So live in the moment. It's the present. It's called the present because it is a beautiful gift that we get to open every day of our lives. So that is who I am. I hope to connect with many of you. And I am so sorry I came in late, and I may not be able to stay to the ending of this, but thank you for having me. And Kurt, thank you for introducing me to mutual aid. Stephanie, I would love to get to know more about you and the beautiful work that you're doing, and see how we can come together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts and prompts. I want to make sure that everyone said hi. I think so, but don't know if I see everyone. So please yell if I'm about to skip you. So one of the things that I mentioned that here in Madison, and then also with mutual aid networks, with our version of mutual aid networks in general, we are really looking to use a variety of cooperative structures and sharing and exchange, a lot really going back to healthy communities, indigenous ways of life, and a lot of ways that people and all kinds of other natural systems have operated throughout time. So we want to make sure that we're always looking to the past to not forget what's already as good as it can be, and also look to the future, apply very deliberate principles, and very deliberate eye toward regenerating and reconnecting. So for me, it's been a really important learning journey to learn about specifically Indigenous food sovereignty and learn about and embody the desire to decolonize our minds and our way of living and our way of speaking. So one example of that is Dawn Morrison and the Working Group on Indigenous Food Sovereignty in what's now Canada, between Chase and Vancouver. I got a chance to go and work with them on mutual aid work and working on developing more of a cross-cultural frame of reference. And so I got a chance to really learn a lot of perspectives that are so essential for us to embody. And one example is I'm going to liken it back to my beginning in working in time banking. When I first created a time bank in my local area where you exchange time instead of money, I really wanted it to be mechanistic. I wanted to be able to like launch some software and tell some people about it. And I thought it would just flow. And I didn't want to have to do the person-to-person coordinating and community building. And then very quickly, I realized, first of all, that is all it is the person-to-person communication and community building. That is the key. It's the only key. It's the most rewarding piece of it. But I was like, I was so colonized. I really wanted that kind of, you know, that kind of whatever capitalist, soft tech, nocratic kind of solution. And it was like the most valuable lesson ever that I've ever had to like immerse in actual community of sharing and exchange, and realize it's not at all about the credits. It's not about the transactions. It's not about the mechanism. It's about the relationships and reconnecting. And then when I went out and got to learn from the Indigenous food sovereignty people who've now created the Indigenous Food and Freedom School and have a community center and gardens in Strathcona Park and Vancouver and Moorland and Chase, and they're creating these, you know, this whole vocabulary, literacy, and practice to reconnect. So one thing that I really learned from them, besides the really essential nature of looking at Indigenous foodways and sovereignty and upholding that and getting out of our like urban agriculture and healthier agriculture, getting out of our commodification of food, our privatization of food and land, but then also decolonizing our language. Like one of the things that Dawn really taught me is she really dislikes the word resources and has really helped me like try to filter that out of my vocabulary, and just seeing everything as a resource has just this implication that it's there to be used. And one thing that she said is, when do we stop thinking of salmon as relatives and start thinking of them as resources? And just all of, yeah, that just learning how essential it is to have the relationship with the food, the relationship with growing, the relationship with the land, the reciprocity with land is so easy. I mean, it's easy for those of us who've grown up in this kind of like this dominant culture here in the United States. It's easy for us to never to even be exposed to that way of thinking. And it's really easy for us to get on a track that, you know, where we do a lot of things to regenerate our food systems and things like that, but we completely leave out the key piece of like the healthy system and the healthy relationship with it. So I'll stop talking and see who wants to build on that. And if you have thoughts about ways that we can help restore those kinds of relationships and perspectives on a local level, or whatever you want to share.
I actually have a question. I love the work that you're doing, and you know, again, the whole concept of time banking and getting the help and the resources that you need without feeling that you have to pay for everything, especially when you really are living in such a tight, really tight budget. And some people have no budget at all because they just don't have any kind of money, right? And myself, coming from the community of people with disabilities, you know, many people with disabilities, they do not work. The main reason oftentimes that they do not work is because they need personal assistance to come in and help them in their daily lives, that they rely on state funding to pay for those assistance. So once you start working, you lose those benefits. And I mean, there are so many ways around it, but they're not aware of it. But just the fear of not being able to have the life you want and attain the different aspects of life that we all enjoy when we're able to pay for it. When you're not able to pay for it, it really puts you, it can put you in a very depressed state, like in a state of, why am I even here? Like, what is the point of, I can't even go out and do this, or I can't afford to do this. So it can debilitate your mental state for sure. And what I love about this is the beauty of knowing and growing a community. I live in New York, so and I did kind of peek into your site a little bit, and I know that there are some great things that are happening in different parts of the world with Mutual Aid Network. I'd love to see it come to New York, because there is so many people that I can really see benefit from the time banking, especially. I love that idea of not feeling the burden of, I can't afford it. I want it, but I can't afford it. Or even the elderly community, when they need to mow their lawns. Like, I think about my parents, my dad really can't do it anymore. And they're paying ridiculous amounts of money to have someone come for, 20 minutes, if that, to mow the lawn. How beautiful would it be to call on your neighbors to help you with that, to call on your neighbors to pick up something from the grocery store for you because you just can't get out this particular day. I just truly love the whole concept of mutual aid, and I really do look forward to learning more, growing with you, and being part of, the growth of this. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Rita needs to leave. Thank you, Rita. We hope to be in touch more. And Denise, are you in New York City?
I am in Long Island, which is more downstate.
Okay.
About 40 minutes away from the city.
Okay, because I know some people to connect you with around New York City. I may be closer to you, but yeah. So if you're able to be around a little bit longer, just at the top of the hour, we're going to move into kind of harvesting from our summit, and a lot of it's going to be how we can have really like step-by-step ways to engage people and build the kind of exchange and sharing that we want where we are. So we will hopefully get a little bit more direct in linking people up with some of the things they need. And that can happen in the next 13 minutes too. But the hour after that is really devoted to that. Who wants to build on anything that's been brought up here and/or film? Kurt, was that you? So I'll just share a little bit more, and please jump in if you want to. So what we are working toward is still very aspirational. So anyone who's anywhere around Madison or Wisconsin, I'll encourage you to join the Madison MAN, the Madison Mutual Aid Network Co-op. But we have aspired for a really long time to create something called neighbor to neighbor care teams. And we still plan to do it. And in conjunction with that, we have this Everywhere Gardens project. So we shared about it yesterday, and we've shared about it at other summits. But the aim in Everywhere Gardens is to do like very thorough outreach and give people an opportunity to offer the land that's right around their house. Like, we're not looking to gain control of some land that someone else owns. We want people to offer the land, like their yards, and also offer growing or learning. And our aim is to have different garden plots all over that are collaborative gardens and shared gardens. So more collaborative and cooperative than the regular community garden thing where people grow where they want to. And we would like to have the whole thing informed by permaculture and indigenous foodways. So we're growing really optimal plants for their optimal scape, doing it with good soil stewardship and land stewardship. So anyhow, our idea is we would like to be doing really thorough outreach, like door to door on a given block, and find people who will coordinate services, both offers and needs in transportation, in food, and in wellness services, and then also checking in on people. And this is modeled on something that used to run out of a hospital-based time bank in Pennsylvania that was really successful. And it's really, I feel it could help us get past some of the barriers that we have with people just jumping into mutual aid or time banking or exchange system. Is it's hard to get people's initial, like, people are very enthusiastic about the idea, but it's often hard to translate in that into action, as I think all of us who've worked on this have experienced. However, it's increasingly apparent the need for disaster relief and disaster preparedness. It's increasingly apparent the need for self-sufficiency in food and energy. Like the idea of a crisis that could mess with your own life and infrastructure is a lot more realistic to a lot more people these days. So yeah, I think the time is really ripe to create neighbor care teams. I think in the Northern Hemisphere, doing it before winter, this promises to be a tougher winter, and we're seeing more and more sort of supply chain constrictions. So anyhow, that's a long way to say, I think that it's really beyond time for us to break it down and simplify it and make it really easy for people to sign on to creating something like a care team, something like a crisis response, like check-in, phone tree, some of that stuff. So all right, Denise is gonna have to go. So feel free to jump in and say bye whenever it's time. And everybody, don't feel obligated to like stay to a certain point in time. We're taking it easy. That's a big part of the theme of this summit and our summits in general, is to just realize it's really important for us to take care of ourselves, be easy on ourselves. So we want to have these regular summits so people can always find each other. And we don't want to feel a ton of pressure. Like, for example, I was doing an outdoor sidewalk screening of this because we want to create a lot more sort of like street level opportunities for people to connect. But it was like awkward and hot to be standing on the sidewalk watching a movie. So we changed it. So anyhow, that's just an example of starting to give ourselves more permission to roll with it and be easy. So has anyone want to share, have you found any like really good ways or challenges that you want to address about going from interest to action? Alan, it looked like you had some experience with that. Do you want to go off mute and share any of that?
Interest to action, isn't that always the way, no matter what your intent is, sometimes if you don't put it to action, and life gets in the way. I mean, I come from I'm thinking from sustainability and an environmental aspect, and why after the first Earth Day, you don't see much action. And, I've sort of come, it's all about economics as far as I'm concerned, which is why I like the mutual aid and the time banking and repair cafes and things like that. But I come to the conclusion that people in economics, people are worried about food and healthcare and shelter and energy and transportation. And hey, maybe a movie, some kind of entertainment, or to follow their art or passion. And then after they get all that done, maybe they'll try to do something for the environment or for whatever greater cause. So I'm trying to get people to think of how they can address all of those issues in a way that is more just and sustainable. And heck, it might be cheaper.
Yes, it's bound to be less costly in a variety of ways. I'm going to share this tool that we have. It's really rudimentary, and you might have seen it before, but anyone else want to chime in while I'm grabbing that?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to share something. I was thinking when you, well, I guess one of the challenges I am coming across and I'm trying to address is, just having time. And, I was thinking about it a little bit when Denise was talking about, people who aren't able to work, and, and me being able to work, the way in which that really, like, I see the importance of these things. I see the importance of mutual aid. I see how barren our communities are in a lot of ways, and our neighborhoods are really segregated, and everyone has their own little plot of land. And I really struggle in wanting to address that, and but like, in order to sustain myself, like, I have to work, and it seems so hard to, like, and I'm trying to find a way, like, and I'm working on a farm right now, because I am interested in that in itself, working on an organic farm. And but it's still like, it's hard to, like, bring that into yeah, I guess to feel like I can really embody and, like, bring into life the real attention to, and the real effort to really addressing some of these issues, because I know that is something I'm dealing with at the place that I'm working. Is that the place I'm working is doing really well, but, like, it's not I really, and it's hard for me to understand how, if I'm being too judgmental or whatever, but I do have the sense that that, like, a lot of it is really interested in catering to folks with privilege and wealth, and for folks to just be increasing their own wealth. So the season's going to be ending soon, and, like, I decided not to work there over the winter, and yeah, but it's still just struggling with how to really feel good about plugging into these things, and not yeah, I guess just feeling supported, I guess, in giving my time to I guess to something that isn't really I don't know. It's just it's not a it's not what people do, right? like people just look out for themselves, so it's hard to really know how to yeah, to do that, I guess. All right, thank you.
I would love to share with everyone this tool. I typed it into the chat. It's really rudimentary. Just so I think, well, I'll just say it's probably obvious to everyone, but everything that we do is like a rough draft, and it's aiming to be built on by anybody who uses it and improved upon. But I mean, that's the whole point, Ian, of creating a systemic approach and creating an ecosystem of cooperatives, an ecosystem of mutual aid networks. So one of the things that we do, and again, it's like super basic, but this posterity budgeting worksheet, and Alan, it goes to what you're saying too, like people have their hierarchy of needs. What we want to show, like it's really common for people to be dismissive of time banking in the following way. It's great for getting vegan scones and massages, but that's, you know, that's like mostly what I can get. And so now I say, like, what's wrong with vegan scones and massages? Like, it's actually quite wellness producing to have some nice food and massage. And we're working on creating more avenues. So in time banking itself in West Virginia, there was a time bank. I don't know if it's still doing this, but what they did was they earned hours to assemble and install solar panels. Like people learned how to assemble and install solar panels, and then they could get them in exchange for putting the time in, or they could get used cars and bikes. And then as they saved their money from the energy use from the solar, they like pooled that and put some of it back in to keep the thing flowing. You can put some into a common fund. So they were getting, like, they're reducing their energy bills and turning it into an income stream. So for mutual aid networks, like we really want to facilitate that stuff too. Pooling money, buying some housing, put the land in land trust, and then get, you know, be creative with reducing our need for cash. So the posterity budgeting workshop or worksheets, and it's a workshop too that we're working on refining. I think it's going to be really better and better as we do these as a group, but it's really a way to show, okay, how can I reduce my food expenses? Right now I spend however much a month. If I start putting some of my time into doing our collaborative gardens, I'm earning hours there. So I am earning at least an hour a week doing the gardening. Now I can go and harvest some of that food and use it and displace some of the food bill. We just are recruiting. We used yesterday's event to recruit some great vegan soup makers, and we're going to ask them to join Common Good. And we're starting other kinds of price-based mutual credit. So now I'll be able to save more money on prepared food. I can go out to eat less than I do, and I can get soup and bread delivered to me and spend some hours and a small amount of cash. And then we just go down the list. So I already mentioned the space, some space options. There are a lot of housing cooperatives here where you can get affordable housing by using cooperation. And what one group that we've been learning from is a group in North Carolina that started a scattered site housing cooperative. So they're pooling money and they're buying different housing units that aren't all connected, and they're cooperatively owning that, and they can reduce the cost that way and share in ownership and stewardship, and people don't have to live together. So it's just, again, like everything in mutual aid land, it's learning from what other people are doing and applying it. But then we see, like, as we can start doing this, if we can start doing it together with more of our local folks or more of our community of practice, we might see some low-hanging fruit. Like one of the things for me, that's one of the biggest expenses is my wireless service and cell phone, and it works horribly at home. And one of the things that we're learning from other efforts is about mesh wireless networks. So what we would like to do is make our own mesh network and be able to have some cooperatively stewarded internet service and some neighborhood communications that could be more resilient and more private than what we currently have access to. We can save money, and that can also turn into an income stream. So this is, and then a very big motivating force in our version of mutual aid networks is realizing that most of the destruction being carried out on our planet, our communities, our people, most of the violence being carried out is by people who are paid to do it. And a lot of those people aren't in their number one chosen field. So we've laid out like really explicit vision for, we want to create an economy that displaces the whole prison industrial complex. Like number one, creates much more beautiful opportunities for people who are getting fed into the prison system, and much more beautiful opportunities for people who are becoming police and prison guards and prison builders and all those things that are often the only economic opportunity in a particular community. So yeah, reverse. So Ian, another thing I wanted to share, and anyone feel free to jump in because I have gone on a while. Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I had a question, if you could back up a little bit about the wireless and the internet. What are you talking about?
So I would like to understand it technically better, but a mesh network, and I'm gonna actually look up Detroit Digital Stewards. It's, what I know about it is you can get certain bits of equipment and have a partner, like a community partner who has good broadband, who's willing to share it. You need a few tall buildings, I think up to 3 buildings to install stuff on, and a community partner. And then you can get members or different participants to put their devices into the network, and each device kind of like sends it out farther. So the more participants you have, the stronger signal you have.
Does mesh stand for something? What is?
I think it's about how it meshes together.
Okay.
And
I was in the cellular business for 20 years. On
So,
sales, retail, and repair, and I have a couple people that worked for me went on to fix network systems, and we're still in touch. And one of them with two-way radios had developed his own cellular network from here 150 miles to the beach, years before cellular. So that's why I'm curious, and maybe they could help you understand that better, and the equipment and time, and what it would take to make it work.
that would be great. And our partners in Chicago, Shy Commons, are working on doing this throughout Chicago. And I shared the Detroit Digital Stewards because I find it really inspirational. They have trained people in 6, or it was 6 a couple of years ago when I checked in with them, in 6 neighborhoods in Detroit to install and maintain their network. And it's a pretty beautiful situation. So that would be great if you're interested in helping people understand that. And then another thing I wanted to mention, since you mentioned your tech background, and so we're moving into the hour where we harvest from the summit and do sort of a virtual marketplace with the next step. So I'll kind of flow into that, but we can wrap up anything anybody wants to about the film also. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so one of the things that we are doing right now is we're working on improving our tech infrastructure ourselves for mutual aid networks. And we're going to be just regathering our tech work group. So if any of you are interested from the user side, programmer side, also we're looking for people to learn, who would like to learn how to work on some of our software. We're aiming for an open source software ecosystem, and we're making a lot of steps toward that, but we would welcome any of you. So I'm just going to have people email me if you're interested in that, and then we'll be aiming to put stuff in our communications about it. So I just want to go back into something Ian was talking about when you mentioned like being time poor, maybe working for a company that's doing well. One of the things that we are aiming, a practice that we're aiming to really kindle, is more voluntary, joyful wealth redistribution. So the vision is, we in our community, we do our posterity budget. We have some kinds of frameworks for getting a sense of what kinds of work lend themselves best to what kinds of exchange. So for example, I tend to think of time banking for care and creativity and community work, things that are really underfunded but are extremely valuable. And I also think of the commons for those things too. But once we've done our posterity budgeting, or once we are getting a little bit more adept about exchanging time, I might see that I could really benefit from using 4 hours a week in hours to get some respite care for a loved one. And I'm working a lot and I don't feel I can put that time in to earn those hours. What I can do in the mutual aid network context is put 4 hours worth of my gross pay of your regular wage into the common fund and then use hours instead of that. That's a mechanism that we've created, like a social way to exchange hours and money, where we're not like putting a price on it. It's not a mechanical thing, it's a social thing. But we can, we're aiming to build more and more practices where we really embody ourselves in a do it ourselves kind of way, to each according to need, from each according to ability. But I was able to earn all this money. I'm going to put 4 hours worth of it into the pool. If I earn $10 an hour, it's going to be $40. If I earn $100 an hour, it's going to be 400. That's our way to even out our labor on purpose. And then you take time out, which is always exchanged equally. Everyone's hour is worth just an hour. I don't know if that makes sense. And we haven't started really practicing it routinely. A lot of our systems are sort of like more informal at this point. People put in a ton of time and we share a lot of stuff, and we haven't done as much to like record it and exchange it, but we're working toward it. We have a little common fund right now with $700 in it. We are using a common good debit card that we can use in businesses. So Ian, since you're in the Madison area, there are a lot of different ways that you could dip a toe in if you want to, and try any of these things on a, on an exploratory scale. And I also typed in the chat, and I'm gonna recommend this to different people in your local areas. We've started a thing recently called a dream team. And then the aim is to have a group of about 20 people who are like really formally commit to being what we have committed to, is playing a supporting role in each other's dreams. A lot of those dreams are working toward becoming gainful enterprises. So we're working together. At a certain point, we'll, like close the membership. We have this many people, and we'll be applying for money and looking for different funding sources to create a basic livelihood backstop, like a cash backstop for everyone, to really like give us some safety and security to like really practice this. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think having money as a backstop can really help free people up to exchange with non-monetary things, because you don't have to be afraid about if you're gonna have the money to pay your rent that month. I'm curious how that strikes people about the idea of having the cash reserve to make it easier not to use cash. Does that make sense to anybody, or does it seem counterintuitive?
I mean, it definitely makes sense. It like, yeah, it makes sense. It's hard to believe, like that, not to be, yeah. I don't know. I know cynicism is so much part of being colonized, really. But yeah, it makes sense.
I really like how you said that. Yeah, cynicism is a big part of being colonized. Yeah, as someone who I've seen like different times when our culture like sort of doubled down on that. For me, I saw it in the 90s where it got cool to be mean and aloof and standoffish. And I do think that that's one of our number one barriers, is just getting over the idea that it's not possible. For me, that's a really good reason to check in with, like, to watch a film like Gather, and to check in about Indigenous cultures, and realizing that it never stopped working for a lot. Like, of course, we can take care of each other, and of course, we can live in better harmony and not deplete everything that sustains us, because it has happened. And some communities have continued it. And again, like our idea of mutual aid networks is to recognize that, and then apply, build a bridge from the culture that I am immersed in, that, we can embody more of those practices that bring us into healthier relationship but not do it, do it from where we are and build that bridge back. So that's what we're aiming for. And one of the things, I invited you to our Dreamtime sessions that we're doing every Friday. One of the things that's really nice, and we are currently shifting into the harvest from the summit. So this is part of my harvest from the summit. In previous summits, we realized like what we really need to get good at is creating unintentional communities, really like living where we are and doing these practices right where we are, applying them to our own lives. And that's a lot easier said than done. But one of the things that we want to do is, or one of the things that we are doing is really recognizing that just having a regular presence and a regular way for people to come together and taking a lot of the pressure off ourselves about what happens each time, how many people show up and what's going on has really benefited us. So we have a lot of very regular gatherings and very regular meetups, and sometimes it's just a few people and sometimes it's a lot more, and each one has its strengths, and we can just keep building on ideas and keep building on work. And at Dreamtime, there are always people who show up, like we ask people what your big dream is. So we're working toward a number of big dreams, which include a neighborhood restorative justice and peace building project. It includes a healthy food cart, making healthy comfort food, includes a wellness center, a soul radio station locally. Anyhow, there are a whole variety of those big dreams. And every single week, there's always something really small and manageable that people are able to do for each other to help move that along. And my point about that regularity is like, once you get a taste of that, you realize it's real and you don't feel cynical about it anymore. It's sort of like what I shared in the last hour about when I started the time bank. I really wanted a mechanistic thing to happen, and I didn't want to have to do the in-person stuff. And then I realized like, that's the whole key. That's the whole key for me personally. That's the whole key to everything. But it took for me that experiential learning, even though I knew I wanted to start a time bank, until I like was in it, I didn't realize how important that was. I didn't realize how much I had to learn and how much room I had, and how important it was for me to do that. So, yeah, I would love to hear from each person who's willing to share. And again, you can pass, but, and thanks, Alan, for sharing these things in the chat. I want to let people know we are recording. We'll share this later unless anybody like jumps in and tells us that you object to being shared on the recording. So this now, we're harvesting what we have gained from the autumn or from the September Solidarity Summit. We realized after calling it the Autumn Summit that it's spring for our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, although none of them have happened to make it because it's terrible timing for them. So anyhow, another learning from summits is we'll need to bounce them around in time a little bit to give people an opportunity to make it. And one of our learnings from summits is wellness is always a huge theme running through all these things, especially since we're often talking with organizers and yeah, people who are really focused on community work. Often burnouts is something that people are grappling with, cynicism, getting demoralized by the state of the world, stuff like that. So just the solidarity and the coming together and supporting each other's wellness, we realize is just a key piece of each summit. And the more we can help each other with that, the better. And let's do the mic passing again. So I would like to pass the mic to Kurt. If you want to share a little bit about what you learned with hosting your gathering yesterday and anything about the summit and summits in general. Kurt, are you able to give us your perspective now? And if not, I'll see if Ardell is willing to. And I'm asking these folks first because they hosted a little meal. Hello, nice to see you.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, follow on the part you said about learning to recognize the importance of the personal relationships. I mean, it's always kind of back and forth, right? We sometimes, I find myself, and I notice it seems others do it too, kind of wanting to, like, if you're passionate about a concept and you just kind of want to go there and skip over all the like the small talk, the making people comfortable, and it just, there's just too much in our basic, I guess, hardwired nature about trust building that relates to that slow process. And I was, and when you were saying that, it reminded me of the group we had. And, I was really hoping that, people would really catch on to this idea, because I think everyone can, like, I sort of, as centered mine around the idea of getting to know the neighbors better, so that, in a time of emergency or crisis and needing to band together and help particular members or whatnot, that whose door you're knocking on. And so to me, the idea is so obvious. And I was like, I'm just really hoping that people, and everyone that I invited was invited by someone they specifically knew. And so I knew that would be important, right? But still, the only two people came were my close friends and my daughter. And I'm just like, that has to be enough. And the fact is, those two that knew each other, they hadn't talked for so long, and it was really lovely and for them. And like, they didn't want to hear one thing that any of you all were saying. Like, I kind of had it low on the background, but they're just like so over that. And I have to call it a success. That's all.
That's lovely. I really appreciate your sharing that experience. And I like that you said, yes, it's a success. And one of the things that we used to say early on is, like, there's no such thing as failure if you share it anyhow and share your learning from it. And it sounds like a success by any standards. And yeah, it's sort of like when I was saying that I was hoping for a mechanistic thing, also, like, nothing goes faster than it's meant to, especially when it's people, humans. And that's been something that we've learned to appreciate and roll with, is the ebb and flow. So yeah, that's lovely. Thank you for.
Oh, that just reminds me, one final little note. I think it was like, it's one of the leadership gurus. I think it was Stephen Covey's son, who wrote a book about the speed of trust, and like going faster by going slower. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, one of the things also that as a perspective I've developed with this is that there's no substitute for spending time together at all, but working together is a bit of a shortcut. Like, when I think back to my different working relationships, a lot of my strong bonds did start by working with people. And then I also think traveling together is even more of a shortcut. So that's part of what has informed, like, making mutual aid networks for a purpose that people sort of are already motivated by, and doing the solidarity sprints. So once the COVID stuff is more under control, but we also can go places COVID safe. Like, we will get back into traveling together, and I'll invite any of you to do that and to host gatherings and stuff, because it's just a really great way to build the kind of relationships that we need in the future. And Ardell, like, focusing on the potential disaster relief needs, unfortunately, that is, I guess, probably the shortest cut shorter cut than traveling together is when people do experience a hardship together, the mutual aid does kick in, and it doesn't ever hurt to have laid some groundwork ahead of time. Roscops, do you want to share anything about your gathering yesterday? And they might be doing double duty on a happy neighborhood thing, so. All right, so I'll kick it back to Alan. So I'm not sure how much of the other part of the summit people participated in, because we had a local gathering here that we were doing, so I was only like not always aware of the participant list. So if you weren't here, no pressure, no problem. A lot of the focus of this summit was how we do translocal learning that helps forward whatever our dreams are. And I think it's really important for us to realize we don't need to feel bound by a geographic concept of local. Some of us won't find our mutual aid community right where we live, even though there are a lot of really good reasons to look for one or to create one. A lot of us are, we are a community of practice and a community of interest right here and now. But like, for example, I play music, and there's a whole other network that I would like to be developing to do, more of a house concert circuit and more grassroots sort of music support and connection. So there are a lot of different communities of practice, and we're all looking for those simple ways to invite people to engage, or doable ways to invite people to engage. So I would invite anyone, if you learned something from the summit and or like anything you've gleaned from your local experience, and it can also be problems that you've had, because that's often a good way to learn. So I'll just call on the next person. You can keep doing that and pass if you want to. Alan, would you be willing to share your perspectives on the topic?
Well, I missed, this is my second attendance, and one, I guess the first one was, I don't know if it was last spring or the spring before, I'm not sure. So, and I didn't see any of yesterday's. So, and I'm interested, I guess some of these people had hosted parties, or groups of people attended the summit. Is that what happened? Because I was sort of thinking about the possibility of doing that. It would be great if they were on the second Saturday of a month one time, because that would coincide and I could have a screening of that going on. But that's what I'm doing. The successes I'm having is just getting people to gather around music and food, and I'm open it to all the neighbors, but I'm selective about other people. And I'm getting tremendous feedback, connections that are being made. And, that's what I'm trying to do. One of my biggest joys is when I see two different people and I said, they should meet, sparks are going to fly, things are going to happen. And that's what I'm trying to instill at these parties, but it's one step at a time too. So.
If you would like to specifically plan one that's like translocal, we would totally do that. What we are looking for right now here in Madison, and then I think a lot of us in the humans, but we're looking for a lot of different ways and reasons to bring people together, especially after yesterday, because we had what I consider a very successful event here yesterday. It was in the back parking lot of the Social Justice Center, which is our center that I'm sitting in right now. It's been shut down for COVID for forever. But we have a significant community of people who are without housing, who live and hang out right around the building. We have neighbors who have houses right around there, and there's a lot of stress and tension between, some of the different uses and activities around the building. And this building hosts different nonprofits and cooperative groups, and everyone's doing different things and a lot of different pressures. So I mentioned that one of our local goals that we want to forward is like neighborhood peace building and healthy communication practice. So that was one of the things that we wanted to really aim for with our gathering. And it was you know, of course, it's never everyone you want, but it was a really like great mix of some of the people who live in the Occupy tinier home village who had moved from the tent city into that and are now creating a community there. So there were a number of people from there, some of our outdoor neighbors here, a number of people like from different community organizations and mutual aid work, and just like random people coming to eat some food. So it was like a very healthy mix, and there was a lot of interest in moving that forward, including with some of the neighbors who were like engaged in a big mutual accusation conflict right before we started. It was like created a nice opportunity. Like we're around each other a fair amount, but having the meal together, where it's like a really specific invitation, really opened up some more open avenues of communicating on that for the future. So yeah, so that was cool. And then it was really apparent that we need to bring people together a lot more. So we're doing our dream time thing every Friday. And that is a thing I wanted to share with people too. That's something that's working well for us. And so we'd like be happy to share it with people as we go, is just being like, just getting more deliberate about creating the cohort that is really like explicitly committing. And we're also like really light with, we don't expect anyone to come every single week. So yeah, so if you wanted to, if you can let us know like what time the second Saturday of the month, and if you want to schedule one that's a few of us together, we'd be totally into it.
Okay, all right, let me, we're having music between 2 and 6 on the second Saturday. You know, of course, weather is changing, so I don't know how that's gonna go. The musicians tell me that, you know, below 55 degrees, the fingers don't work so good. So we could do, you know, I assume you're talking, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour. I don't know what you're talking, something like that. Somewhere in that time frame. That's Eastern Standard Time, of course.
Cool. So let's be in touch about that. I think yeah, let's email about it, and other folks on here, if you're interested in doing something like that, let us know. I don't know if October is too soon, or maybe it's great to build on the momentum, and it totally depends on what fits with what you're doing. But yeah, let's email about it.
Okay.
Cool.
Or you can
Thank you.
FaceTime me and I'll just walk you around.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
If it's too soon.
Who else would like to share about your harvest from the summit, and or like moving forward and more connection and action? Tim, I know that you're doing other stuff, and actually people might be interested. I'm not sure what you're doing, but especially if you're doing anything in Occupy or Rindall, people might be interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, I'm at Rindall Park right now. I just spent some time with some of the folks who are out here. Sort of a summery day. We've had a couple of cold nights, so I'm out here pretty regularly, like I was at another park where people encamped in tents, much closer to where we are at the Social Justice Center in Madison, called McPike Park, for some of those who know this area. And yeah, there's a big cleanup that just happened here, noon till 3. I just got to cross paths as they were heading out. I was coming in, and yeah, so that's what I'm up to.
Could you tell everyone about, like, just in case that anybody doesn't like already have a handle on tent encampments, like tell people what the Rindall Park encampment is?
Sure, yeah. This is one of the big city parks. You're seeing it behind me here. It's got a very large area that's open and flat where there are playing fields. There's a splash pond, there's tennis courts. People have used this is one of the most programmed parks in the city. And the city, in the context of the pandemic, identified it as a temporary permissible encampment, which allows people to tent and overnight in a park, which normally is not allowed. That was not the case in the precursor to this that I was referring to, the smaller park that was much closer to the kinds of services and access that people need who are houseless downtown. But when they, in the end of February, middle of winter, told people they had to leave that park who had been there, since summer. This was one of the locations that was identified as allowable. And there was another location that is not terribly far from here as well. So it's a place where people who have really not got compatibility with a shelter system here in Madison and haven't been able to stay in housing find themselves able to be without ending up being in violation of ordinances for the temporary period. There are mostly people here in tents. There are some people here who brought their own fifth wheel, sort of like an RV without a motor, got to be trailered. There are some people who are in automobiles who go to the parking lot or actually do drive on the grass and park in a tree area. The population has varied from when it was the middle of February and at the end of February, and a couple of people arrived here that I helped move. There were a population of 2, 3, quickly became 6, 8, and now is somewhere in the range between 50 and 70. They're estimating. So that sort of gives you a broad overview of it.
Thanks, I really appreciate that. And would you like to share some of your takeaways from this summit? And did it inspire you to, are there any inspirations about different ways to move forward locally from here or as the Humans Network?
It so appeals to me to do it sort of in the style and fashion that we got to do it both locally and globally. And the comment that was made earlier, I think it was Ardell who made a quote about trust, and you about local not having to be immediately in personal presence. There was somebody who was participating in something called Slow Food when I was out in Vermont at one of the gatherings, who said, local is the distance the heart can travel. And it's so right. It was so apparent because slowly the relationships and the connections are becoming clear, and the similarities, the needs, the ways in which some of these things can be solved can be shared so quickly and simply by just showing how it's been done someplace. And the inspiration was to just continue to do it more. The variety of folks who showed up at our local event really were once again sort of surprised, and some of us who've seen it happen a few times were not so surprised that there were real connections that were happening, that people were like, oh, this is the perfect person, I'm so glad I came, and it just was happenstance that I happened to come, but it was the perfect thing to do. So that's inspiring, always inspiring.
Thanks. I wanted to just say something about Tim's role here. So him being out at the park, and Tim played a huge role in helping the build of the tinier homes. I should actually show people that, but so Occupy Madison was born during the Occupy Wall Streets movement, and Occupy Madison ended up, a lot of people who were houseless ended up being part of it and part of that encampment. And then it continued on. People worked together to create a tiny home village. And then when the pandemic started, they got another location and created a tinier home village. And Tim really helped manage some of the construction, like COVID safe carpentry, and organizing teams to do that. But Tim, as you can see, is out at Rindall and is regularly spending time at Occupy Villages, and then also is out here at Social Justice Center gardening really regularly and taking a stewardship role of the building and the grounds around here. And everybody knows Tim and trusts Tim. I mean, I'm sure some people don't because he pickpocketed them or no, but everybody knows Tim, and he's building up relationships and trust by spending time with people that's authentic. And a thing that I found during my time banking years too, we always had someone meet with our coordinator before their membership activated. There's so much to be said for if there's one person in the network that people get to know and trust, that's their link in. And there's never, that's another thing there's not a substitute for, is like ambassadorship, people who join up with the system or the network and then do it and use it. Like if you set up an exchange system, the people who take it, fill people's requests and take them up on their offers, those are the folks who get the other people engaged who are a little bit more shy, which is like almost everybody. So I just wanted to highlight Tim's role, like being consistent and being around and being willing to chat with people. And sometimes it takes a certain kind of personality. Like I'm not very outgoing, like I can switch it on if I have to, but like it doesn't come naturally to me in any way to just go chat up some strangers. I like can get myself in that mode, but we need, and I do, like I make myself do it because it's so key to organizing the stuff I want to organize. But then I really need other people around like Tim and Casey, where it's just natural to them. So if you don't find it coming naturally to you and you're a steward in your local area, it's good to sort of like see the people who do feel it and are more comfortable, and see if you can have them put their skills and talents that direction a little bit. So Tim, I mean, always we can't thank or recognize you enough for the role that you play with that. So thanks. Kurt, did you want to jump in and share any? Oh, if you're on mute, did you want to say?
Oh, thanks for the acknowledgement. And it really is a pleasure to be connected to a network that has close and far ties, because that's really fulfilling. It spreads that way. It's an opportunity to show how there is an alternative way. And Ian, I would encourage you anytime you're interested. Stephanie, you can give him my contact. If he's interested in just a day in the life of somebody who just does all this all the time, he's welcome to like tag along.
Thanks. Kurt, did you want to jump in with what you learned from the summits, what you're going to take forward?
Well, I guess I'd just say the power of just organizing and making available, and not giving up on things. I mean, there's been talk about my connecting here in Waukesha County, Milwaukee metropolitan area, and doing what we did yesterday at the park, and actually didn't work too much on it until the last couple of days previous. So it was pretty much ended up with what we did was an impromptu thing, and we put it out there that we were there, and we had a couple of our friends show up, and we weren't even sure that anybody was going to show up. So I think the power of these summits is there, and so now we have something to build from, that we know that even if we only do it in a 48-hour window, and most of it actually the day of, and we get a response, that we can grow from there. And with more planning and more sharing effort, we could end up with a sizable event the next time. So, and we ended up getting so deep in the conversation, we actually didn't pay attention as much as we maybe could have to the Zoom running on the table. But but we'll work on that, having a screen and stuff like that to make it more obvious. So I guess for me, it's just the confidence that we're all working on the right stuff here, and helpful with what all of you are doing to kind of give me confidence that we're improving the future. So thanks for what everybody's doing.
Awesome, thanks. I like how you said that, because that's one of the things that we were really hoping to accomplish by just encouraging everyone to host a meal and then not worry about if you just do a small one, if you just invite a couple of friends, because it's going back to my own experience and the experience of a lot of people. This doesn't come naturally to most of us, and most of us like didn't grow up getting taught how to organize a grassroots thing from scratch. So that's part of what we were hoping for, is to like hold each other's hands, make it easy to try it out a little bit and make it feel easier for the next time. So what I'm thinking that one thing that I want to do, and this is part of my harvest, I forgot to do some things here that I meant to do. So Tim, I don't know if you noticed, but we had meant to have a big dry erase out board out where people could sign up for different roles in a neighbor care team and write up what constitutes a healthy community. And I just didn't do it. I did get signups though on a sign up sheet. So I want to see what we can do here to like make some very simple things to share and some very simple, you know, like simple materials to engage people, and just ideally will help each other create a situation where you can do a thing next time that feels easier and even more like funneling things into the outcomes you're looking for. If that's something that people want, but I know it's something that I need. Ardell?
Hey, thanks. I wanted to pop back in and mention, because it might be relevant to some of you all. We live in a semi-rural area, and one of the things that came out of our discussion was that one of the gals knows someone who is really an expert in native plants. And so they both got really excited about an idea of getting of sort of commissioning this person to and like kind of helping them advertise and everything, and getting them to do a walk. I've been to like a mushrooming foraging before, but just to learn more about what's actually available here, because there really is a lot. And so just an idea to throw out, you know, it's even something that could be, some of you may know, Airbnb does sort of local events. What do they call them? Where you just can put it out there as a local opportunity. And when people come to an area, sometimes that's like, I like to look at those and say, you know, what's unique to this space that I couldn't really get anywhere else? And especially if it's outdoors, that's still like so COVID friendly, and just, I thought it was a fabulous option.
It's a great idea. Yeah, we did that one time during a summit here. It was really cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's lovely. So how about, so we have 14 minutes left before this is done, and we put the, we can leave this open if people want to meet each other and chat informally. There's no pressure at all to stick around. So we'll just play it by ear. But in the last 14 minutes, I'd love to hear if you have specific offers or needs, whether it's about your mutual aid work or you personally. That's one of the things that we've wanted to do in each of these is a virtual marketplace, because there is plenty of stuff that people are currently needing or offering. It doesn't have to be place-based, but there's also plenty of stuff where we're close enough to support each other in those things. So one thing that I need, one thing that I need is support with building more of a music network, especially for house concerts, but supporting original music and connecting with musicians, music booking, music promotion. So that's a need that I have. Another need that I have is, and this is on behalf of the humans, is for people to participate in some of our tech work, both as users and as people who might be able to help. You don't have to know coding, but like tech savvy people who can learn enough to sort of like work around the edges of our software. So those are my two requests. I'm going to put them in the chat, but music support and join humans tech work. And an offer that I have is anything about organizing your local networks. And I know there are other things I could offer, but I think I would probably hear what the requests were before I would say it. So those are the things that I'm offering and needing. And also we could use more help turning some of our learning, actually I put this as another request, turning learning into actual curriculum, into better curriculum. Oh, another offer that I have, and I know Ardell has this offer too, is we have some learning games. And I'm happy to share them. It helps me if you play them and suggest how to improve them. So you might not think of offers or requests off the top of your head, but they can be far-fetched or anything, and I'd love to hear them if you have them. Kurt, do you have any that have come up for you?
Not so much. I mean, for me, it's just a networking venture to find people. Like we had Denise in here who got introduced to it, and just in that process of connecting in my relationships to see if what we're doing here is a good fit, a good match for what other people I know are trying to do in their lives, and to practice the art form of making sure if I introduce them to mutual aid networks that it's serving what they need to be doing in life, and then looking at our calendar and being that custodian for the old thing of right people, right place, right time. So I guess it's kind of like building a tribe, and learning how to do that. So in terms of requests in that, I don't know if it's anything particular to me. I think it's just what might help the mutual interest that we all have in being here today.
Awesome. And I want to recognize your role as an ambassador. Many, like most of the new people who come to our Zoom sessions are recruited by you. So thanks. That's very huge. And another thing that you didn't name as an offer, but is an offering that you make often, is the awareness of being better and better at being engaging of people with all kinds of abilities. So yeah, even though you didn't like offer it up on your behalf, you often offer it. So I would like to list that as an offering of yours, if you don't mind.
Not at all. I appreciate you bringing that up. You're absolutely right.
Cool. Ian, do you have any, like, are there things in particular that would help you see your way clear toward engaging the ways you want, or just things that you need to make life easier or more pleasant?
Well, one of the things that is on my mind that, especially going off that movie is, I've been involved to the degree I can in the fight against Line 3 over the summer. And there's an action coming up in DC in the second week of October, and I'm hoping to go. So if there's any folks who are interested in standing in solidarity with Indigenous folks to really put the pressure on Biden at his place of work to take this seriously. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there yet, so I think I have options for ride. But folks that are interested in that at all, even interested in maybe locally, folks are interested in having some sort of like way to educate people about it, because I just know there's a lot of people that don't even know about Line 3 when I mention it to them, and it's discouraging. So that's one thing that's on my mind.
Great. I just started typing in the chat, but I'll just share also this, a board member of ours and friend is likely going on that and does a lot of organizing about Line 3, and I'm happy to put you in touch. So if she's not going, I'm sure she knows people who could help with transportation or like connect. Thank you. Do you want to share? I don't know if everybody knows what Line 3 is. Would you mind just sharing briefly?
So Line 3 is a tar sands pipeline that comes from Canada. I'm not sure if it's Alberta tar sands, but it's a tar sands pipeline, and it goes through northern Minnesota, and it would end at Lake Superior. And so this tar sands oil, which is extremely toxic and really hard to pipe because it's basically just sludge. And so these pipes are put under huge pressure to pipe the sludge, and then it would, it would get taken to Lake Superior, and then it would be put on boats. And again, it goes through 50 different bodies of water in northern Minnesota through traditional treaty land. The indigenous folks there have made it clear they don't want it there, and that they weren't consulted in, they weren't really offered the opportunity to have a say in it. There is one reservation, the Fond du Lac Reservation, that did take money from Enbridge, and that did allow it. But a lot of the other tribes and reservations have been very active in opposing it. And the Biden administration has basically given it the green light, and doesn't really seem to talk about it publicly a lot, while mentioning, while talking about, the importance of addressing climate change, and really taking action now, really seems to be making some sort of, political strategic decision that, it's okay to allow this to go through in a part of the country that's not really visible, and who, with folks that don't have much means to oppose it. Yeah, I guess that's just briefly. There's been a lot of the police in northern Minnesota has been given, or there's an escrow account that was created by Enbridge to basically fund the police to police the resistance. So the company is basically, this foreign company is basically paying, the local police to terrorize and to enforce whatever, to basically protect the interests of this foreign corporation and the resources that they're extracting at extreme danger to the local ecosystems there. One of the big reasons, one of the big points that the Anishinaabe folk are talking about is just the danger to their wild rice fields, which are in these bodies of water, and how important it is to their way of life. That's a little bit about it.
Thank you, much appreciated. Great. And feel free to type in the chat if there are places where people can go to get more active, if you'd like them to. Ardell, I see that you put an offer in the chat, so that's awesome. If you feel like you have a request that you would like to say, go ahead and jump in. And I'll call on Corey next to see if you have an offer or request that you'd like to make for your community or for you. And then I know Corey was doing another thing, so if that won't work. Tim, did you want to say if you have any offers or requests for our virtual marketplace, just to remember how we can support each other?
Can you hear me?
Oh, Corey, hi. Sorry about that. Yes.
Yeah, I just had my phone in my pocket. I had to get out and take it off mute. But I have been working on local networking, and I've got a number of people that are interested in the whole pay it forward time banking concept. So that's what I've been mostly focused on, is just getting the word out, and like people that are doing stuff similar to what Solidarity is doing, and Happy Neighborhood Project and Humans and all that stuff. So kind of helping build the ecosystem. I don't have any needs or requests on my end. Just grateful to be able to participate and help bring people together, like working on common good. I'm thinking offers like if anyone's ever in San Francisco, we've got like Airbnb type stuff if people ever wanted to come visit. That's an offer. Then they, I think setting up some appointments, like introducing people to kind of discuss. I think that's kind of what I've been really focused on. So I'll be looking forward to setting up those phone calls and having them in the future.
Awesome. And I would love it if at any point you ever want to share about how it's going with your local organizing, or any things that work well for you. We're always all looking to improve on that. Cool.
Totally. Yeah. It's just getting the word out and meeting people and discussing, like moving it forward. I was actually just talking to a guy that I met last night who's like totally on board with it. He like called me back the next morning saying like, hey, we need to talk and strategize. So yeah, I look forward to introducing everybody.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah. So let us know if there are any things that are helpful at any point in that journey. Cool. Tim, would you like to share the final go round of needs and offers for today?
Sure. Let's see. I think what's present to me right now is in this environment of shifting weather, there are people who are trying to layer up. So one of the challenges inside of an encampment like this is people who have quite a bit and are interested in sharing that it might be appropriate to just come to a place like this and just drop off lots of things, like lots of food and lots of clothing and lots of tents and sleeping bags. And unfortunately, I can tell you the general consequence of that is to end up in the end overwhelming them with duties to take care of and try to preserve things that they can't use, that's not fitted to them and not suited to their needs. And they try, and it consumes their time and it consumes their energy. The food ends up being an attractant to rodents, and yellow jackets this time of the year are pretty bad. And so it's actually a challenge to do it in a manner in which it just sort of like lands on tables and lands on corners of the park. It ends up creating a scattered mess. And then the people who are here essentially get blamed by the passersby and the park users and everybody else for the mess. So I guess it would be a request for anybody who's got a solution to that. Anybody who thinks that they know how you might put out a way to communicate with a city that there are places that do this sort of thing of making sure that that stuff gets to the right parties out here. Volunteers, nonprofits, street outreach, organizations like the Social Justice Center, when there were a bunch of people out at McPike real close by, did it. But if you got a generic idea about how to do that sort of thing in a way where maybe mutual aid ends up showing up as being something that's really the center of that, I've yet to be able to scope myself around that whole thing. Yeah, like that.
Thank you for that. That's a super practical, ubiquitous issue that mutual aid could help with. I mean, ideally, we're designed to do that. So I'll just share. I mean, it's come up as an idea before, and we haven't made it work yet. But we talked with a number of people in different communities about people being able to earn hours and or money on a common good card or something by being people who are who set up those systems and carry them out and clean up and things. And a big barrier is being able to know ahead of time that there will be ways that people can exchange those credits for something valuable to them, that things don't happen that set up weird power dynamics. Sometimes when people end up in leadership roles, like weird power dynamics form, especially in like very stressed situations. So so for me, that was really helpful to get the get like some really nuts and bolts offers and needs, and we'll look for ways to connect more at that. Ardell has offered to help edit curriculum as we make it. And Corey, I think your offer of places to stay in San Francisco sounds like it's going to be tremendously valuable. So it is time to close out this part of the summit. This is like the official ending point of the summit. Sorry, we went over by a couple of minutes. If people want to stay and chat, that's great. No obligation. I will probably go, but if anyone wants to chat about something in particular, I'll stick around. So does anyone want to offer up a couple of words of inspiration, like a quote or anything that we can do together? And otherwise, I'm just gonna say, I'll end with a phrase from them. I'm gonna say a group called Art of Hosting. I have done a number of trainings with them and stuff, but it's been very helpful for learning about bringing people together and different kinds of conversations. And one of the things that they say is whoever shows up are the right people. And whatever happens is the right thing. So thanks, you're all the right people to do this with today. This is the right thing to do. Anyone else want to share a parting thought? All right, so we'll officially conclude the September Summit.
I'll
And-
say that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is the present. That's why today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Perfect ending. Thank you so much.
Thank you.